Hey. Time for another Out of This World story from rSpace. Today on rSpace, apparently the local library isn't just a haven for book lovers, it's also the official co-working space for people who've been fired but still want their spouses to think they have jobs. Quiet, free Wi-Fi, and zero judgment, just you, your laptop, and a steaming cup of professional delusion. Wife was fired for a work affair. She said I needed to support her. I left her with nothing instead. I, 31 male, have been married to my wife, Sandra, 29 female, for 4 years. We've built a nice family for ourselves over the years with my lovely 3-year-old daughter, Hannah, and our little corgi, Rocket. We've been able to afford a nice place because we both earn a decent income at our jobs. I just make a bit more than she does, although you could say she's higher ranked at her job. She climbed the corporate ladder pretty quickly, actually. I always thought it was a testament to how hard she worked, along with the fact that she worked at a smaller company. Now I realize it was something else entirely. The first time I realized something was wrong was when I was going through our finances. We had an arrangement where we both deposited a fixed amount into our joint account every month. I realized she hadn't paid her part for the last month. No big deal, she probably forgot. I planned to talk to her about it and find out what the mix-up was. But the red flags began to pile up. After taking a closer look, I realized she'd been making withdrawals from the account. It wasn't much, and it wasn't too often, but it was unusual. We both agreed that the account was meant for house expenses only. We had to have a discussion before the money was used for anything. Something was wrong. I believe in being open, so I sat her down and asked her about it. I didn't accuse her of anything and didn't attack her. At the time, I didn't consider it a serious infringement, just a worrying pattern. Infidelity never came to my mind. The only thing I was really worried about was gambling. Back in college, she used to bet on women's basketball games. It never got out of hand, but she has a family history of addiction, so I got her to stop. I'd always been scared of it turning into a full-blown gambling problem. Now I was worried that it might have happened under my nose. If that was the case, then I wanted to help her, so I was gentle but firm in my approach. She was quiet for a while after I told her I'd noticed the missing funds. I could tell she wanted to say something, but she was struggling to find the words, so I just sat back until she was ready. When she finally spoke, I could tell that she was trying to keep herself from crying. She apologized for lying to me and told me that she'd lost her job and she didn't know how to tell me. I had a lot of mixed feelings. I was relieved that it wasn't what I thought it was at first. Being fired wouldn't destroy us since I still had my job. She could always find another job, after all. Addiction would have been an outcome that was several times worse, but I was still angry and hurt that she'd kept it from me. I couldn't understand why she did that to me, especially since the truth would have had to come out at some point. Did she do something wrong? I asked her why she was fired, and she said that she was laid off. I wanted to believe her, but something about that sounded wrong. Like I mentioned, she works at a relatively small company. As far as I knew, they'd never laid anybody off before. Besides, why would she keep that a secret from me? Layoffs are unfortunate, but they're not embarrassing. I've been laid off myself once earlier in my career, and I'd told her about it before I even got home. Something was up. The whole situation seemed like she had been let off from work or something that would only be considered dishonorable. I asked her if she was sure, and she insisted that it was the truth. Then I asked her about the money she'd been taking from the joint account and where she'd been going when she said she was off to work. She said she didn't know how to tell me she'd lost her job, so she'd gone to a local library during the day, where she'd get on her laptop and search for a new job. She claimed she only took the money out of the joint account to pay for gas. The more she told me, the less I believed her. It didn't make much sense to me. Why would she go to these lengths to cover up being fired if she was just laid off? I tried to probe deeper, but she started crying. I stopped asking questions, partly because I didn't want to upset her, but also because I knew I wouldn't get anything out of her in that state. I tried to get more information out of her over the next few days, but she told me nothing. She just claimed that she'd already told me everything. When I asked why she thought being laid off was something she had to cover up, she just told me that she was upset and she wasn't thinking straight. Eventually, I realized I wasn't going to get an honest answer out of her, so I decided to go behind her back. I wasn't a fan of that kind of thing, but it felt like circumstances called for this kind of measure. I didn't want to accuse her of lying to me when I wasn't certain myself. And when all my attempts at trying to get a more convincing story had failed, I knew I'd be able to find something more conclusive if I snooped. I'd met a few of her coworkers before at a few work functions. I didn't keep in touch with any of them, but we were friendly whenever we saw each other. One of the guys I got along with well was Evan. We geeked out together at a Christmas party over a shared hobby and exchanged contact information. I never called him because I thought it would be weird to start a friendship with one of my wife's coworkers, but I was always glad to see him at parties. He didn't work directly with Sandra, but they were friends. He was in middle management, and he would probably have an idea of how she was really fired. I had to call him twice before he picked up, and when he did, he sounded uncomfortable, like he didn't want to talk to me. After some small talk and meaningless chit-chat, I told him my real reason for calling. I said that Sandra told me she'd been fired, but I had a feeling she was hiding the real reason from me. I'd tried to get to the truth out of her, but she was sticking to her story. I asked him if he knew anything about it, and if she'd really been laid off. He didn't say anything right away, but he sounded twice as uncomfortable once I told him what I was calling for. When Evan hesitated, I knew I was onto something. He definitely knew what had happened, and it wasn't that she was laid off. He told me that he really didn't want to say anything. It was against company policy for him to give out that kind of information. I had a feeling he would say that. I pleaded with him to let me know, as one man to another. I stretched the truth a bit and told him I was worried that her gambling problem had resurfaced. He sighed heavily and told me that he really didn't want to be the one to tell me this, and that I had to swear that I wouldn't tell anyone I heard it from him. I promised him that I'd keep it between us, and I meant it. He was doing me a solid here, and I'd never throw him under the bus for that. Evan told me that she'd been fired because of an affair she'd had with an intern. He apologized right away and said that he knew that wasn't the way that I'd want to find out about this kind of thing. The intern was 20 years old, and it became a huge scandal at work. He claimed she coerced him into a sexual relationship. According to Evan, the investigation revealed that it had probably been more consensual than he had made it out to be, but that didn't matter. She had a high position in the company, so the power dynamic made things problematic. That left the company open to a lawsuit, so they did their best to keep everything quiet. They fired her and made the intern an offer to try and settle things with him. Evan said he was sorry and knew that it was hard to hear. He told me that he'd honestly thought she would have at least told me she was fired. I felt like I was in shock. He called my name a few times and asked if I was still on the line. I got myself together and told him I was. I thanked him for the truth and promised him again that I wouldn't mention it to anybody. He was so obviously uncomfortable, so I let him off the call. That information really cleared everything up for me. Suddenly it made sense why she hadn't told me that she lost her job. She knew I would ask why, and there's no way she would tell me she was fired for sleeping with an intern. She'd probably planned to find a new job before telling me that she was laid off from the old one. I felt betrayed on so many levels. She cheated on me and lied to me for so long. I was also disgusted that she'd preyed on a younger man for her affair. Even if Evan said it seemed consensual, it struck me as wrong. An intern in the current job market would probably do whatever it took to keep himself in the company's good graces. Sandra's behavior disgusted me. What hurt the most was that I knew I would have to end our marriage. She cheated on me and I wasn't going to excuse that, but we had a young daughter together. She was just a toddler and she wouldn't understand what was going on, but splitting up would still affect her. But I knew I couldn't ignore this for Hannah's sake. I wouldn't be able to give Sandra for this, and a loveless marriage would hurt Hannah just as much, if not more. Before I ended things for good, I decided I would hear Sandra one last time. I waited until Hannah was asleep, and then I told her that we needed to talk. As soon as I said I talked to Evan, her whole body sagged. It was obvious from her face that she was guilty. She asked me what he told me. I asked her what she thought he told me. She didn't answer that, probably recognizing that it was a trap. I was trying to see if there was any more information that Evan might have left out. When she didn't speak, I continued. I repeated everything he'd said to me about her scandal and that she'd been fired as a result. I asked her if it was true. She started trying to give an explanation, but I cut her off and firmly asked for a yes or no answer. That happened 2 more times before she finally gave in and said, "Yes." I sat there taking that in, and she continued with her explanation. I let her talk, but I wasn't really listening. I didn't really care about anything else she had to say. She claimed that it only happened once and that she'd had a moment of weakness. She said she knew she'd messed up, but she didn't think it should have cost her her career. Then she said that the company had blown it out of proportion since he was of legal age and could consent. I told her that she was ignoring the important details. It didn't matter if he was 50 years old. She had seniority over him, and he might have agreed because he wanted to keep his job, but that was an issue for her and the company. What mattered to me was that she'd cheated. I pointed out that she hadn't apologized once. She didn't seem to regret what she did. She only regretted that she'd been fired. She did apologize after that, but it was meaningless to me. It felt like she was just saying it because I pointed it out. Sure enough, she moved right past that and went back to how she shouldn't have been fired. She even claimed that she was thinking of suing the company. It was interesting how much she was trying to dodge accountability by changing the topic, as if I'd forget one of the worst feelings in my life because of her silly attempt at a segue. I said she could go ahead and sue them if she wanted to, but I wouldn't be a part of it. We were done. She had the nerve to look surprised. She said, "I told you it only happened once," as if that was supposed to make it any better. She claimed I was punishing her for a simple mistake and that I was supposed to take her side. I told her flatly that she hadn't made one mistake. She'd cheated on me, taking advantage of her position at work, and lied to me. That was a pattern. She started crying and said I didn't know what this had been like for her. She'd lost her job. She was scared out of her mind, and she'd been pretending everything was fine for Hannah's sake. I pointed out that all of those things were her fault. They were the consequences of her own decisions, and now she had to live with them. I didn't sleep in the same room as her for that night. Honestly, I wanted to leave, but I didn't want to leave Hannah, and I knew I couldn't take her with me. We've still been living together while we try to figure out what we're going to do about Hannah. She keeps trying to convince me that I'm supposed to be on her side in this, and that she's somehow the victim. When she starts, I just leave the room. I've already spoken to a divorce lawyer, and she'll be served soon. I plan to move out after that, but I'm still worried about Hannah. I know she's safe with her mom, but I don't want to leave my daughter behind. Has anyone ever gone through something similar? What can I do? Update. Thanks to everyone who offered advice and support. Honestly, I was a little bit overwhelmed to see how many people took my side. It's nice to know that I wasn't crazy for feeling betrayed or wanting out. A few days after my last post, I had Sandra served with divorce papers, and she exploded. She cried and screamed and said I was abandoning her when she needed me the most. She accused me of not caring what happened to Hannah, and said she'd make sure I paid a fortune in alimony and child support. She said that since I wouldn't support her emotionally, I'd continue to provide for her financially. My lawyer reassured me that I might end up paying some alimony, but since she'd been fired for misconduct, it wouldn't be as much as she wanted. He also said it was likely to last for a reasonable amount of time, or until she found employment. He said I'd definitely end up paying child support since there was a high chance that Hannah would end up with her mom. I didn't like that. I didn't care about the child support, I just didn't want to lose Hannah. He assured me that we'd fight tooth and nail for her, but he was just trying to keep my expectations realistic, based on how custody tends to favor women most of the time. I didn't care about being fair or going easy on her. I wanted to make sure I didn't lose my daughter. So we fought as hard as we could to get custody. We didn't hold anything back. I brought up her affair, her termination, and how she'd continually deceived me about her employment. We couldn't prove that she would be an unfit parent, but we did everything we could to prove that she couldn't be relied on to fully provide stability herself. She and her lawyer fought hard too, but they didn't have anything to use against me. The best they could do was argue that young children needed their mother more than their father, which didn't seem to convince anybody. In the end, the judge gave us 50-50 custody of Hannah. I had to pay child support because Sandra didn't have a job anymore. The upside was that it really wasn't much, because Hannah would be spending half the time with me. I got the house too. Sandra wouldn't be able to keep up with the payments on her own now that she was unemployed. I would. She wanted us to sell the house and split the profit at first, but my lawyer argued that it would ease the transition if Hannah spent half of her time in a familiar environment. My lawyer was right about the alimony situation too. The court ruled that I had to pay minimal alimony and only for a year while she looked for new employment. Her termination for misconduct played heavily into the judge's decision. Sandra was furious. She had expected more out of the divorce, and she didn't hesitate to let me know it any time we met to hand off Hannah. She kept trying to blame me for her current situation, saying that I should have stuck by her. Even now, she still insists that I'm responsible for everything that's gone wrong in her life. She claims that I used the system against her. I'm honestly shocked at how she's still avoiding accountability to this day. There was no point where she admitted that she'd done something wrong. She'd actually tried to gaslight me into thinking I should be on her side. Sandra and I have settled into a workable routine when it comes to raising Hannah. We don't talk about anything personal and only communicate when it comes to our daughter. I can't go back to normal with my ex-wife, but I don't want Hannah to grow up in a family where her parents openly hate each other. So I'm civil when Sandra comes around. I'm polite but distant. I don't go in when I pick up Hannah, and I don't invite her into the house either. I hope that things can at least remain civil so that our daughter can grow up under mostly normal circumstances. When Sandra tries blaming me for how her life ended up, I just disengage and leave. I do the same thing when she starts trying to be overly friendly as well. We're not partners anymore. We're just two people raising the same child. I went for counseling to help me figure out how to raise Hannah as effectively as I could on my own. I don't want our divorce to affect her in any way. So far, I think I've done a good job. Bouncing back and forth between two homes would be confusing for any child, but I've done my best to provide stability and comfort whenever she's with me. I haven't noticed any changes to Hannah yet, but I'm keeping my eye out for any signs. I can't control the circumstances that she's growing up in, but I want to make sure that I can help take care of any ill effects that might come about because of it. Sandra's affair might have lasted a short while, but the consequences will be with all of us for a long time. But I'll keep doing my job as a father to make sure that Hannah doesn't pay for her mom's mistakes. The secondhand gaslighting? Legendary. I told you it only happened once. As if that makes it better. You did the right thing, OP. You gave her every chance to come clean, and she still tried to Jedi mind trick her way out of it. No remorse, no accountability, just crocodile tears and weak excuses. It sucks, yeah, but you're out of the blast zone now. She can spin whatever narrative she wants. But at the end of the day, she's the one who torched the foundation, not you. What's the most outrageous excuse someone's used to cover up a big lie at work or home? Let us know your stories in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today on rSpace. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. See you soon.